to On the Air presented by AIRWAAV. I'm your host, Sydney Smith, and I'm here with Chris Harris today, who is a 3 times CrossFit Games athlete who has recently retired from the sport this past year, but he has a lot of knowledge about the sport that he's competed in for over 10 years, and he has used our cutting-edge performance technology for several years now, both on and off the competition floor. So I'm excited to talk with him today, so let's get going. Well, how's it going?
It's going great. How are you?
Pretty good. I'm excited to talk with you today, so thanks for taking the time to even speak with me.
Absolutely. Glad I could do this.
How is the retired life from competitive CrossFit going?
I've got a lot of more free time on my hands now. Not spending too many hours in the gym frees up a lot of time just for really anything else that I want to do, whether it's business related or family oriented. So
Yeah.
It's been great.
Do you have any new plans on the horizon or?
Right now, I've gotten into running quite a bit. So I'm looking to run my first half marathon, my first full. I'm gonna dabble in high rocks a little bit. I have my first race in June that I'm gonna do as a mixed doubles pair. So that's kind of like on my athletic forefront.
Yeah.
As far as the business side of things, I'm just trying to really grow the online training platform because it's virtual. So the more time I put into it, the more I'm going to see out of it. And on the clothing side of things, just trying to tidy some things up, maybe start sourcing some product overseas and start to grow that a bit more as well.
Very cool. I got one of your shirts and I wore it. I've worn it several times within the other week. I PR'd like my split shirt, like 40 pounds in the shirt. I was like, it must be the shirt. So
I love that.
I like your clothes. So I like the style.
Thank you. Thanks.
Whenever you
Appreciate
were
that.
competing, because you said you were getting into running now, and I've seen a lot of your running intervals and whatnot that you've been posting, but were you more on the endurance side, or do you think you were more of a well-rounded athlete in the sense of CrossFit?
Yeah, so when I got into CrossFit, I was more the complete opposite end of the spectrum. Very powerful, great at short duration workouts. So anything that was 5 minutes or less. So kind of like that Isabel or that Grace type of workout where you're just like moving weight really fast. That's what I really excelled at. Over the years, I kind of developed into a more well-rounded athlete. And then towards the latter part of my career, I think I definitely started to appreciate endurance training a bit more. So I started doing these things that I call cardio parties, and then just much longer duration fitness pieces.
So this is more kind of on the opposite side of what you're naturally gifted in, I guess, then.
For sure. Yes. There's been quite a bit of a learning curve just in terms of understanding what my body can and cannot handle. And, you know, when you get very specialized into just one thing, such as running, there's so many little things that go into it that maybe you don't think about on a regular basis, especially as a CrossFit athlete, when there's so many other things to be concerned with, from gymnastics to weightlifting and just all the odds and ends in between. So running is definitely, there's a lot that does go into it. And there's just things that I'm learning every day that I go out for a run.
Yeah. Does your body feel better or worse with all the impact from running, or did it feel better when you're doing CrossFit?
It's got its give and takes. I mean, I've torn both of my pecs.
Okay.
Throughout my CrossFit career, and I've had complete surgeries on them, full surgeries, and I've had some pretty gnarly back issues at one point. Those are kind of like the worst of what I've dealt with. So all of that stuff has kind of subsided because I'm not lifting as much as I was. I haven't done a ring muscle up since the games. I haven't really snatched too much since then. And my shoulders definitely feel a lot better. They thank me for that. But the impact of the running my knees have been kind of adjusting to that. I've been
Yeah.
dealing actually with a little bit of IT band syndrome. So I'm working on one, my running mechanics, because a lot of it has to do with that, but then just also muscular imbalances like in my hips and glutes and things like that. So
Yeah.
just trying to figure that stuff out.
I can imagine all the impact is not that great, but could also see it your body holding up a lot better than sometimes, especially the volume that you were doing in CrossFit really takes a toll on your body. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For
Now,
sure.
were you always involved in some type of sport?
Yeah, from a very young age, I think 3 or 4 years old, I started playing baseball and played that all the way up through high school. And senior year, the group of kids that I sat with at lunch, they convinced me to play football. So I gave it a shot, and I really just fell in love with it from the start. Just kind of the camaraderie and the brotherhood of football, and just like that very physical aspect of it. So I kind of fell in love with that and wanted to pursue that in college. So I ended up going to a junior college to start. It's called Nassau Community College. It was nationally ranked. We went to a bowl game our first year, and really like started to fall in love with it even more. I transferred to another school. It was it's a D2 school called Long Island University. I played wide receiver there, and I wasn't a starter initially, and I had to really work my butt off to earn a starting spot and eventually become an all conference wide receiver. And that kind of gave me the the love of hard work and putting in the hard work and seeing, what you put in is what you get out of it, and being able to like really work my butt off to be able to earn a starting spot and then get the accolades. Like I really fell in love with that process. So when I got done with school, I started working at this place called Parisi Speed School, which was working with primarily younger athletes on their running mechanics to get them better at their sports and faster and fitter. And I just really got into that scene of just being in the gym and coaching. And that was kind of like the start of the my career in fitness.
So, is that whenever you started CrossFit then?
Yeah, I started a couple of years after college. That place that I was working at, one of my coworkers was trying to get me to try CrossFit for actually about a year and a half or so. And when he initially told me, I kind of like blew him off, like, this is stupid. Like, I don't understand why anybody would want to do this. And then I tried my first workout, and it gave me that feeling of like getting my ass kicked. It just reminded me of college football, like, off season training, and really fell in love with it. I dove in head first. Within a month, I was working at a CrossFit gym. I had my L1 certificate, and I was just like all in on CrossFit within a
That's
month.
that's definitely that CrossFit effect too, because I feel like as soon as people try it and they like it, then everything becomes revolved around it, and it's just like a mega fan of CrossFit.
For sure.
You talked about some of your coaching, and then also now being retired from competitive CrossFit, about still coaching, doing the online coaching. How, I guess, what does that look like, and how you're staying involved with the sport?
Yeah, so I am an affiliate owner. So day in and day out, I get to work with people within our community, and training them in the methodology of CrossFit. We have the Open coming up this week, and it's always an exciting time of the year for people just to get them fired up about it, and whatever goals and aspirations they have going into the season, and just trying to get behind it and support. But then also on the online training side of things, our one of our tracks is formerly trained with CH, but it's now called MFLH Compete. And that is for our more, I would say, veteran CrossFitters, people that are more experienced. I would say that have at least 2 years of experience in there, and they have aspirations of making it past that quarterfinal stage, getting to a semis or a games level. So just also being able to stay involved from that standpoint of, helping athletes from a virtual standpoint and getting them ready for their stages of competition as well.
Very cool. And obviously, you've recently retired from competitive CrossFit, but what made that decision to finally be done competing?
I think it was really me just wanting to dive a little bit more into the business side of things, of the online training, of the gym and the clothing. And I wanted to do that maybe around 2019, 2020. So I wanted really like that 2020 season to be my final one. But then we qualified for the games and then COVID hit. So I'm like, I can't go out like that. So then I came back the next year and then we qualified at the Granite Games. And then one of my teammates tested positive for a banned substance. So I'm like, I can't go out like
Can't go
that.
out, yeah.
So then we went again the next year. We qualified. I had my fingers crossed. I'm like holding my breath until like event one of the CrossFit Games. Like, all right, we're actually here. So we had a pretty good showing. I think we took seventh or eighth that year in 2022. But I just felt like there was a little bit more left on the table. So last year, I'm like, all right, let's give it one more solid effort here. And I tried to do everything that I could, from recruiting people to, trying to get a second team in there to maybe get that camaraderie, at an all-time high, and just like that competitive standpoint throughout the season. Because when you're training on a team, you don't necessarily know where you're at until you're in an actual semi-final event and you're competing side by side with other teams. You can get a much better gauge as an individual, but from a team standpoint, it's definitely a lot tougher because they don't use things like the worm in the open or in quarterfinals. So you have to wait till you get to these in-person competitions to really get a feel for where you're at. So I wanted to get two teams. This way we did have somewhat of an idea of where we stood. And we took fourth, just a few spots out, a few points out of third.
That's kind of frustrating, I feel like, being just a few points out of the podium spot.
Definitely frustrating. And that was the case in 2016 when I went to the games on Dynamics. We were fourth place, I think, by maybe 3 or 4 points.
No.
So, like, you're talking about 5 seconds worth of somewhere over the weekend. If you could make that up, that's a podium spot.
Yeah. Since you got fourth this past year, I know there was like the several years, especially since COVID hit, that you were like, just one more year because things just kept happening. But did you have any more desire to even go another year to finish up on the podium?
I don't.
That's good.
When that final event was going down, I was just like kind of just sitting there on the floor, and like I just started bawling hysterical, just like, I know this is it. And I really know that it's it because a lot of my friends on Instagram that are CrossFitters, they're always posting their workouts, and I'm just like, I have no desire to be putting myself through that right now.
Yeah.
So that's how I know I'm done.
Okay, well, that's good that you left out on a good note and there's not really
Yeah.
any questioning, because I feel like that makes it harder if you're like, well, what if I should stay in it a little bit longer, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I have my days where I'm like, what if I try Masters or, try one of these other things? But
Yeah. Well, now you can take up running
I'm
and go with
content.
that. Good.
Yeah.
So, since you've been in the sport for a while and now being out of it, you might even have a fresh perspective on this, but how do you think that you have evolved as an athlete since being introduced to CrossFit?
I mean, I think it's just that I feel like I'm always trying to evolve and reinvent myself as an athlete and just learn and try new things. I feel like CrossFit definitely opened up my eyes to many different forms of fitness, everything from gymnastics to obviously the endurance side of things, strongman. There was a phase where I was like very into trying to like perfect every little piece of my gymnastics technique. And I learned my first back tuck a few years back. Like all little things like that that I would have never done, I don't think, if I got into CrossFit. So I'm just kind of taking that mindset and now just trying the next thing, you know. Maybe one day I'll do an ultra, maybe I'll do a strongman competition one day, maybe even bodybuilding. Who knows?
Yeah, you never know. Did you pull that backflip out ever on the competition floor?
I have not.
You should do that
it's
in the
it's
future
something
then.
I yeah. It's something I get a little nervous about because I don't just like, you know, randomly just pulling out. Like I kind of have like a little bit of a warm up that I do for it,
That's
and then
probably
I'll get
good.
into it. So yeah, so I'll have to do it before my next comp for sure.
I'll be expecting to see some type of video of you doing that at some point then.
All right.
Do you ever get, or did you ever get burnout competing in the sport at such a high level, or even now because you're still learning more, discovering different things that you're liking in the fitness world? Did you ever get burnout at any point?
Yeah, for sure. I think once you get deeper into the game season, you can definitely. I mean, I've found myself getting a bit irritable at times, just because there's so much training that's happening, and you know, when you're on a team, it's not just training. There's the whole aspect of team building and the camaraderie of the team and the logistics of trying to get people in the same place at the same times, and then you know somebody's not feeling well, so then now you're down to three, and it's like, you know, just those little things that sometimes when you're not in the best headspace, they can become frustrating. And yeah, it just becomes a tough situation. um but for the most part, there's usually more of the positives and the good sides to everything. But you know, everyone's got their days, and um I've never gotten to a point where I'm like so burnt out that I need like a week off or anything like that, or I've had to like not complete a season or anything. It's just some days are better than others, but you know, if you're disciplined enough, you just fight through it and keep on pushing along.
So with the team, I have a question of, because you talked some about recruiting different athletes, and there's no real way to know where you stack up just because the team dynamic and using the worm and whatnot. Um, how do you get everyone? I guess one, kind of know if you have a shot of making it to the games, and then also just, I guess, any advice with building a top level team.
Yeah, so 2016 really gave me the experience to understand what a games caliber team looks like. That team, that was also a time when it was six athletes on a team, so it was a much longer worm. And I mean, you want to talk about logistics, add six people instead of four, like it became a lot tougher. But that team, we had people from literally all over the world. We had a girl that was from Australia. We had two people from New York, and then everybody else was, they were transplants from other places. So, you know, understanding that you can bring people together to create this, you know, unified team and unit, it's possible. So when I wanted to go team for out of my affiliate, what I did was I put together like a pro day. So similar to, you know, like an NFL combine type of thing. I invited whoever wanted to come out to come out. I, you know, extended some personal invitations as well. And I had, you know, a benchmark of things that the athletes would complete. They would give me a resume, everything from, you know, their max ring muscle ups to their best snatch or clean and jerk. So I had like a list of their resume, and then
Their fitness
uh,
resume.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And then
Okay.
workouts that I would have them complete just to get a taste of where they're at compared to everybody else that I had do these specific tests. And based on that, you would get an invite to come back to our gym for like round two of the pro day. And then we would start to actually do more team based things. So we would do like practice teams or scrimmages, essentially, of like worm workouts, just kind of rotating athletes, seeing who works best with each other, and trying to field the teams that way. So that's what we did for the 2021 and 22 seasons. 23, we did the same thing, but we were trying to get two teams, and we were able to get two all the way through semifinals. But our second team, they didn't make the cut to the games.
There's the fitness aspect of it, but then there's also just the dynamic between each of the members themselves. How much of an impact do you think that the team dynamic has on the success of how far you can go?
I think it makes, if you have a good team dynamic, I feel like it makes things a lot easier in terms of just communication and just being able to vibe with each other and kind of like be yourself and not have to like walk on eggshells in a bit.
Yeah.
I think if the team dynamic is not there, then, you're kind of like always on edge, like not trying to piss someone off or, say the wrong thing that, just throws off the whole dynamic, if you will. So I think if you can find a team of four that you vibe really well with and you're willing to really go to war for each other, it always makes it that much easier.
And last thing regarding your fitness career so far, I feel like you have a lot of wisdom. So, knowing what you know now, what is something you wish you would have known whenever you were first starting out?
One of the things that I wish I would have done first starting out was probably getting more endurance based from the start. Uh, that aerobic engine and just like from an endurance standpoint takes a long time to build. Your conditioning from like a Metcon standpoint, that stuff comes and goes as much or as little as you train it. So that really takes a lot of time to develop. And I just didn't really buy into it in the beginning because one, I didn't like to do it. But two, I found, monostructural training, like just running for an hour or biking for an hour, just single modality, to be very, very boring. And it's kind of one of the reasons why I started to do these cardio parties, because it got a little bit more engaging for me, mixing up the machines or like going for different numbers of calories and going up and down, a scale of, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 calories and then back down, and then just like things to mentally help mix it up. So I would definitely have done much more endurance work early on in my career, and then probably a lot more, I'd say, like stability or prehab rehab work, or introduced more bodybuilding early on in the my CrossFit days.
So, with that, especially with the monostructural work that you're talking about and just building that engine, what was or is one performance or recovery hack that has been important to you as an athlete?
I would say probably my contrast therapy routine. I have a Sisu sauna here at home, as well as an ice barrel and a chili goat tub. So I've been utilizing that on a daily basis for the past year and a half. I've been, doing cold exposure for a bit longer. That's something I really enjoy doing. Um, and then one of the things that I've always been bad at is when I get like a nagging injury or just something that flares up. I haven't done the best job of like nipping it in the butt right away and like going to see a body worker or an acupuncturist or something like that. I always wait till it's at a point where it's like
Really bad?
debilitating.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I'm like, all right, I guess it's time to go take care of it. So I think just being proactive in being treated and getting your body work done just to take care of any, nagging things you got going on to prevent things from happening.
All the recovery tools before you feel like you should be in a wheelchair, basically.
Correct.
Well, okay, so since you've been in CrossFit, you were actually like one of our first athletes using AIRWAAV, and you've been using it for a while. And I know that whenever you first started using it, you were not entirely a fan of it. So do you want to take
Not
me
at all.
through that experience and just from the beginning
Yeah.
too?
Yeah. So when I first got introduced to AirWave, at first I'm just like, all right, I'll try it, but I'm already wasn't bought into it. So I finally decided to give the mouthpiece a try, and I chose the wrong workout to to give it a shot. I did an interval workout. I remember it exactly. It was a 400-meter run into 30 calories on the Echo bike, and then a 400-meter run. It was rest and repeat for like 5 or 6 rounds.
You remember this workout
And
well.
I have like very weird workout memory.
That's so
It's
funny.
like photographic workout memory.
This must have been like
um,
a weird experience for you to remember it like this.
no, I can remember workouts from like some of my first couple years. Um,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah, but anyway, I round one, I do my run. I'm like, all right, breathing feels good. Then I get into the Echo bike, and maybe like 15 calories into it, I like spit this thing out across the gym. I'm like, there's no way I'm working with this. So then I forget who I talked to at Airway, but they're like, you got to give it another try. Maybe try, doing like a strength workout or something like that. So I didn't even think to use it for that. So I did a workout where I was doing some strength, I was doing some squats, and it made me realize how much of a clencher that I am when I squat or when I do like really, really heavy lifting. I really bite down on my teeth and grind. So it was really nice for me to not have my teeth grinding and then having something that protects my teeth. So then I started wearing it for just weightlifting for maybe a week or so. And then I'm like, all right, let me give it another shot in the middle of a workout. And then from that point, I just kind of like fell in love with it. And like, like the, like the motto, I feel naked without it. I really do. Um, there's been times where I'll forget to put my mouthpiece in and I'll start a workout, and then I'll get like a couple of reps in and I'm like, something doesn't feel right. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't have my mouthpiece in. So I'll go throw it in and restart the workout. Like I'm at that point right now.
What is it, do you think, for you that took you from that point of not wanting to wear it, spitting it out, to now having to have it in whatever training aspect that you're doing?
I think I just bought into it. There is science based research and data about the airwave. And, after using it and reading some of the research and just talking to people within the company, it just really made me buy into it. Um, and then also seeing like one, obviously not grinding my teeth, but also actually feeling the benefits of better airflow. And then also just something else to think about when you're in the middle of a workout, like when things get tough, like you could just kind of bite down on it, or like I used to chew gum while I worked out. I guess I have like a little bit of a oral fixation, but like just something to distract you from the misery that you're going through in some of your workouts.
Yeah. Do you have a specific instance that you might be able to share that has maybe it's strength, maybe it's endurance, maybe it's your running now that you can really tell the difference with putting the airwave in versus not having it?
Yeah, I mean, I specifically like it most now for my endurance based workouts. Although I don't wear the endurance mouthpiece, I wear the hit. I find it to be more comfortable for myself, but I do really enjoy it for a lot of my longer aerobic sessions, especially when I'm skiing. I really find it helps me on that machine specifically.
Okay. And so whenever you first tried it, obviously you did not like it. And then whoever on our team told you to try it again. How long did it take for you to get used to it? And you started out with doing strength more so, correct?
Yes, I'd say maybe like a week or so of doing strength, and then I just started using it in metcons and just really never took it out after that. So this has got to be, I feel like I'm going on like 3 years now of using it.
Yeah.
Maybe,
I
yeah,
all
maybe
your
longer.
all your posts and everything I see you using, I'm like, big AIRWAAV user, big fan over here of it. So
For sure.
yeah. For someone listening to this who maybe hasn't tried it before and they're a little bit skeptical about what a mouthpiece could really do and if it really has any benefit to it, what would you say would be the biggest reason to trying it out?
The biggest reasons for me, protects your teeth and just helps you to breathe better.
Say that's a pretty good one and the motto of literally what we stand for. So yeah. All right, well, that's all I have for us today. So thank you for joining me, Chris, and I enjoyed hearing more about your story and what's to come on the horizon for you, too.
Absolutely. It's nice meeting you, Sydney.
Nice meeting you, too. All right, have a good one.
You too.
Well, that's all for today's episode of On the Air. Thank you all for listening, and thank you, Chris, for joining me. Be sure to stay tuned for our next episode, and don't forget to purchase your own AIRWAAV mouthpiece if you want to break your best and unlock your full athletic potential. Drop any questions that you have in the comments below, and see you next time.